Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this invite. Friends, given the 10 minutes, I'll very quickly explain our game plan and why we need to be elected. Our objective is a win for all Sri Lankans, based on our conviction that a social market economy is what we will bring the desired outcomes. In short, our model is a synthesis of economic freedom, the belief in markets, and economic justice, the belief in equity, and everybody gets a piece of the pie. Having said this, let me quickly detail out our 10-point plan consisting of 5 pillars. The first pillar, these are my 10 points. The first pillar is transparency and accountability. This is necessary. This is a necessary condition to move forward, but it is not sufficient. We will set the right legal framework, strengthen the CBOC, and key among our plans is setting up an independent public prosecutor to take away the conflicts of interest between corruption litigation and the Office of the Attorney General. On public procurement, we'll bring in the public procurement law, e-procurement platforms, new laws for asset recovery, and also, importantly, better transparency in public finance management, including the bill just passed on the Parliamentary Budget Office. The second point is on stabilization. We got 4 segments in this. First is debt crisis management. We will continue the negotiations if agreements are not signed by the 21st. I hope the deal is close to be closed. At the same time, engage with the IMF to amend certain terms, staying within, however, the DSA parameters. We don't intend to shift those parameters, but we plan to amend within those. Ensure financial system stability while dealing with the NPL issues that we all face. Loan revival units, parata issues with MSMEs, etc. The second point is monetary and exchange rates. Maintains the strengthened independent central bank. We are not going to change that legislation. We supported it. We will ensure that they report to Parliament as required, but we will not interfere in setting interest rates. Keeping in mind, however, Governor, the need for international competitiveness by ensuring an appropriate real exchange rate. That's what we actually require to be competitive. Third is revenue consolidation. We agree on the need to increase revenue to 15.4% by 2027 to 2029. How do we get there? While improving equity of taxation. Key here is digitalization. The RAMIS, the ASICUDA, excise, all of those things we will be looking at very seriously. And we will, and this has been talked about for a long period of time, to create a unified revenue authority. Registration of taxpayers. We heard that there are 1,100 or 1.1 million, but there's a lot of double counting. So we need to ensure that people are registered, business professionals, expand the net, increase compliance. But there is one major proposal, that's a middle class tax cut. The tax-free threshold will remain. However, from there to close to ₹500,000, you will pay at the marginal rate, maximum marginal rate of 24%. And the rich will have to pay at 30 and 36%. We are not being irresponsible, we are being responsible because we understand the repercussions of striking out taxpayers. Several adjustments are proposed for corporate income tax for exporters. That is because of ideology that we need to remove the anti-tradable bias in our economy. But we will talk about that later. We are also thinking about the minimum alternative tax, talking about the OECD Pillar 2 on the base erosion and profit shifting taxes. And we will not Mahinda is going to get displeased with me, remove as planned the SVAT as it now stands, because there are two SVATs, the suspended VAT and the simplified VAT. We believe that the suspended VAT makes sense, and we will discuss it on how to actually implement the earlier SVAT for exporters and those providing services to exporters. Fourth is expenditure control, rationalized public expenditure, data-driven planning, transparency and accountability, leakage of cash transfers via digital mechanisms. We'll prioritize infrastructure expenditure. We will complete the Kandy Highway, but beyond that, we will have to see how much we're going to put on highways. For the LRT, the train, we will look at carefully. Military spending has to be rethought. Any excesses will be moved to pay teachers. SOE reforms, Suresh will continue with the basic game plan of a holding company, and the Secretary Treasury will decide on the divestiture based on national security issues and things of that nature. There is going to be some increase in expenditure. Public sector salaries will increase, but that is based on the Presidential Commission, the Cabinet Commission on salary disparities. We are not planning on moving away from that. We will keep to the 24% and we'll keep to the 25,000. And that we assume is possible because the Treasury has issued a statement that they can do it. Maternity leave benefits and menstrual equity will be two things that we will be focusing on beyond that. Third pillar is the most important, and that is incentivizing growth. More from an anemic 3% growth, we need to get to a higher growth path, right? Post-IMF program, if we grow at 10%, it will take us till 2047 to reach $23,500, which is a developed country. So let us get started moving in that direction. We don't want to give false promises, but we want to unshackle the markets, reduce and remove interventions, and increase productivity, which is critically important, total factor productivity. 4 areas: trade and investment policy reform. Here we talk about tariff rationalization, export strategy, national single window, and new EPC models. We agree with the new legislation on private enterprise zones. We are fully geared to modernizing agriculture, removing the asymmetry in agriculture markets. Farmers don't know what the buyers want. Then breaking the rice mafia is priority to bring down prices, access to land, the Shakti Rice Corporation, etc., cooperative. Third area is industrial development, connecting to global production networks. Our failure has been, for decades, we have been inward looking, we've been statist, para-tariffs since 94, worse since 2005. This country, this economy has really a structural problem of an anti-tradable bias. We need to remove that.
Dr. Harsha, you have 30 seconds left.
Right. No, you give me, right, okay. 2 minutes more? No? Here the problem
1 minute more.
is breakdown of walls and building bridges. The fourth criteria, the last one, is on services. I don't need to explain on IT, on logistics, and all the while paying attention to the MSME sector. The fourth pillar is public sector management, digitalization. Our whole program is based on a digital public infrastructure. I'll stop at that. On that, energy and utilities reform, we agree with most of the new legislation, but we can't grandfather non-competitive bids. There is a major focus on renewable energy. Factor market reforms, we will continue what needs to be done. And the last pillar is a strong social safety net. This is key. Like Shehan said, 7 million people are in poverty. So therefore, Sajid wants to create a model that is more like Janasavya, where you don't just dole out money, you have to work for your money, and that's a 24-month program. Until that is structured, we will continue with the Aswasuma, but we plan to increase the first 2 lots from 5,000 and from 8,500 to 10,000. And during the discussion, I'll be more than happy to show you how we plan to increase the revenue to meet all this expenditure. So to summarize, we will continue the path of recovery. We acknowledge the positives. Yet, change to ensure the recovery does not come at the expense of our people's survival. We will incentivize tradable export growth in the long term to permanently lift Sri Lanka out of the cycle of crisis by generating high growth. We will undertake reforms to sustain the change we create, to unshackle markets, and to use digitalization to the max to increase efficiencies and productivity across the economy. And at the end, what we will do is to bring a win for all Sri Lankans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harsha Silva. May I now invite Professor Ranjit Bandara from the SLP